Hi there. Last time you saw me make the side beams, but you maybe also saw that they didn't fit exactly. So today I will make them fit better and also make them watertight. I got them to fit together roughly with the rest of the parts, but I have had to make some widening of holes, mostly in the cross beams, and those needs to be sealed up, and also some holes here in the side beams, and those also needs to be sealed up. So that is what we are going to do today, and then we are going to try to fit everything together again and see if it all fits together without any more drilling. I need to reduce this side to get the side beam to not get so stuck. Thus I cut off 4 mm of the material and trim the surface for later re-lamination. I try that this modification will work and corrects the associated holes so that the side beams and the cross beams fits together. As I anyhow need to redo parts of the side beams, I can as well add oar-lock mounts. Having figured out the suitable position, I drill holes into the side beam. This will temporarily weaken the beam, but I will make it stronger later on, as I will glue in these mounts. I trim the holes with a rotating rasp, so that the mounts will slide in easier, and leave some room for thickened epoxy. I also trim off the paint on the ends, as I decide it will look better with covered ends, and thus I need to add some material in the middle. Some of the holes in the cross beams will need to be relined with glass, so I trim these to make room for the glass. All the holes in the side beams also needs to be lined with glass, so I prepare these in the same way. I start the epoxy work with pre-wetting the bare wood. Then I use the same unthickened epoxy to wet out the thin 160 gram per square meter glass. And to avoid the trouble with glass not taking the bends, I press the glass in place with a clamp. Where I have wide gaps between the cross beam and the side beam, I want to add some wood to fill out, but this also needs to be water sealed. So I add glass and epoxy to it. With some clamps it will cure in the right position. By using the bad bending properties of glass, I reline the holes with glass. I glue in the mounts for the oars now as well. The epoxy glued mounts will make this part of the side beam stronger than it was before. And I will have the possibility to row the catamaran when there is no wind or in tight waters. After curing, there is some trimming to do. I continue to seal up the trimmed areas, as there are sealing on several sides to do, and I want to use gravity to my advantage as much as possible. It takes some time. I use thickened epoxy for most of these gluings and make the batches in small scale to limit waste. On the beam endings I put glass and some plywood to cover the surface. This would have been much easier to do from the start, but as this is a prototype, I have to backtrack when I see the result and have second thoughts. The holes in the side beams are long, so it's a bit trickier to line these with glass. I pre-wet the holes with thin epoxy, but this time I flip the beams and pre-wet from the other side as well. This is to make sure that I get all bare wood wetted. Getting wetted glass into the holes is difficult. I roll the wetted glass onto a pencil, but as the holes are about 5 cm long, the glass expands before it reaches the end. I raise the beams to get better working conditions and wrap glass around the pointed tip of the pencil to get the glass in and through the hole. I think that this will line the hole well enough. But if it doesn't work, I could redo the process with thinner glass. After curing, I notice that it's fine as it is, and head outside to try to fit the cross beams first. Fit isn't perfect, but if I fit the threaded rod into the inner hole first, it makes it easier to find the right path for the outer hole. And then I make it through. Having one set of bolts in place, I can continue with the next. At this tower, the outer holes are aligned, but I have to straighten the path for the inner holes with a rasp before I can get this through. Having the front beam in place helps when I do the back cross beam. And soon I have all 4 bolts in place. Now I fetch the side beam for the final test. I have added too much material here, so I have to remove some again. Now the second side beam. Also here I have left too much material. When the beam fits on the outside, I still need to remove material in the hole, also in the back end. I finish with glassing over the small areas I trimmed down to bare wood, and then paint the beams. Next time I will show how I install the hardware. Please join me then.